All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. We're going to completely shatter those romantic myths of the American West by stepping directly into the hooves of a wild horse. When we think of wild stallions, we almost always picture these majestic, invincible creatures just galloping freely across sunlit plains. But looking at the actual source material, it tells a wildly different, honestly much darker story. We're talking about a life of constant struggle, relentless competition, and a cycle that literally offers zero room for weakness. Seriously, imagine being born smack dab in the middle of a wide open field, where making a single mistake literally means death. Surviving out there is this brutal, cyclical battle against predators, aggressive rivals, and the freezing elements. From your very first breath, nature is testing you. It's definitely not that carefree existence we see in the movies. So today, we're going to break down exactly what it takes to make it from day one all the way to the bitter end. Part 1, Birth and the First Winter. Let's look at the beginning of your journey. Okay, so you drop to the ground, and immediately you're trying to stand on these wobbly spaghetti legs. You meet your herd, usually about 8 or 9 mares and one intensely protective father. You get a couple licks from mom, try to stand up looking kind of like someone trying on high heels for the absolute first time, and eventually you grab that first sip of milk. But from there, your life is ruled by a relentless, ticking clock. You go from innocent infancy to a rapid exile, up to an exhausting peak of power, and then a swift, lonely decline. Every single phase demands a new, incredibly difficult set of survival skills. You go from a dependent foal to a total outcast to a king, and finally, a solitary wanderer, all in the span of just over a decade. By 4 months old, things get real. You're transitioning to eating grass right as you face your very first terrifying wolf encounter. Picture this, you're out there just trying to figure out how to chew this tough green stuff when suddenly you catch a sharp scent. A wolf appears. But before you even have a second to panic, your dad is right there. He's snorting, stamping, acting like a giant 4-legged alarm system. He makes it crystal clear to that wolf that messing with an angry stallion and his herd is a terrible idea. The wolf slinks away, and you learn your very first lesson in wild protection. But soon enough, the sharp bite of winter changes your world completely. The grass you just learned to eat, it turns dry and brittle. The water holes shrink up. Your body tries to adapt by growing this thick, soft winter coat, but honestly, it's barely enough to keep the misery at bay. You're forced to huddle right in the dead center of the herd just to block the freezing wind, watching the adults desperately scrape away snow just to find a few bites of buried food. You survive this first freezing season strictly because the herd literally surrounds you. Part 2, the bachelor gang years. This is where we see exile and growth, mostly because the safety of those cozy winter huddles is about to violently disappear. You might think growing up means getting a little more respect, right? Well, in the wild horse world, growing up just makes you a target. At exactly 2 years old, your father decides he has had enough of you and the other young colts. He violently kicks you out of the herd just to completely eliminate any future competition. The young female foals, they get to stay, but for the males, life suddenly feels like a never-ending parade of kicks and shoves. Your dad is the only adult male in the herd, and he is absolutely not interested in young challengers coming of age around him. Your choices are basically try to fight a fully grown, enraged lead stallion or hit the road. So yeah, you hit the road. Eventually, you stumble upon a bachelor gang. It's usually about 5 other exiled stallions. And suddenly, life gets a whole lot more interesting. You roam the mountains together, learning how to dodge wolves, but the real main event of your day becomes the infighting. To survive out here, you have to navigate a literal pecking order of bloody scraps to learn fighting moves and climb your way to the top. The rule is simple: challenge the horse ranked directly above you. It's a brutal system of rough, violent fights involving hooves and teeth until you finally carve out your spot as the strongest. Part 3. Claiming your own herd, the ultimate prize. So, once you become the absolute strongest bachelor in your gang, the stakes escalate big time. You've learned how to take a hit, you know how to strike back, and your buddies know you're the top dog. Now it's time to find a herd of mares. And guys, the shift in your lifestyle here is going to be drastic. You are trading this relatively carefree life of just hanging out and sparring with your buddies for the immediate, exhausting burden of becoming a true protector. As a bachelor, you ran with a pack that predators actually avoided, because a group of energetic young males is just too much trouble. But as a lead stallion, you are the single line of defense for a whole herd of mares and foals. By age 5, you're finally ready. It's time to face off against an older lead stallion to steal his mares. You're tracking over hills and endless plains, and boom, you spot a herd. The current stallion is looking maybe just a little worn out, and your bachelor buddies are practically on the sidelines breaking out the popcorn, totally hyping you up for the showdown. But listen, claiming a herd is almost never a single glamorous victory. Actually, scratch that. It's a brutal game of failures, painful bites, and collecting scars until you finally manage to overpower a weaker leader. These fights are absolutely intense. We're talking exhausting 5-minute brawls filled with vicious hoof strikes and snapping teeth. You might attack, get completely beaten back, and have to retreat to your group covered in bruises. All the while, your bachelor friends are just judging your performance, knowing their own chances are zero if you, the strongest, can't even win. It takes multiple attempts, heavy setbacks, and a ton of toughening up before you finally take the crown. Part 4. The Burden of the Crown. Ruling the Plains. Congratulations, you won the herd. Your old bachelor group scatters, and you have officially reached the absolute peak of your life. But ruling the plains comes at a really relentless cost. Welcome to your new reality. As a lead stallion, you're nearly unbeatable, sure, but every single day is an exhausting cycle. You're constantly fighting off wolves and mountain lions, crushing ambitious young challengers, and using every ounce of your acquired wisdom to keep the herd from starving during those bitter winters. You have to find the safe grazing spots, locate the water, find the winter shelter. Your only real perks? Well, you're at peak physical strength, and if you do get injured in all this brawling, your mares will at least care for your injuries, but man, it is a heavy, heavy crown. Part 5. A harsh, lonely end. The inevitable, tragic fall. Because out in nature, absolutely no one gets to hold the crown forever. You've roamed these plains so much you know literally every inch of them, but time is the one enemy no stallion can defeat. By age 12, your muscles ache, you've slowed down, and inevitably, an energetic young stallion steps up and easily defeats you in a shockingly quick showdown. It happens just like that. A young bachelor, brimming with energy, looking exactly like you did at age 5, challenges you. His gang is cheering him on. You step up to fight, but your body just doesn't have that speed anymore. In minutes, it's over. You're defeated. And the hardest part, your mares leave without so much as a goodbye. This forces you to seek shelter completely alone by some rocky cliff in the freezing wind, relying purely on whatever remaining fat reserves you have to survive. That is the cold, hard reality of the wild. After years of literally bleeding to protect them, the herd just moves on with the new victor. You push forward alone into the biting cold of winter, finding a rocky cliff just like the ones you used to huddle against with your family. But now, there is no one left to lean on. And in a chilling, truly unforgettable end to this whole cycle, the very same wolves you were protected from as a 4-month-old infant, they return. Only now, they're back with their pack, seeking revenge and proving that the wild always reclaims its own. That old wolf you chased off so many times as a lead stallion is back, and this time, he's brought friends. Which brings us to a haunting final thought for you to take away from this explainer today. If survival at the very top of the food chain is nothing more than a temporarily borrowed crown, what does that actually teach us about the relentless, unforgiving nature of the wild? Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and keep seeking out the reality behind the myths.